What is next for Din Djarin and Grogu? Well, in this video, I'm going to tell you. The minor spoilers for the Mandalorian and Grogu in this video, so if you haven't seen it already, click away now, you have been warned. In this video, I'm also going to talk about maybe the fate of Grogu and Din, and also how Ahsoka Season 2 could possibly set them up even further for one last push of media. It's safe to say that the Mandalorian and Grogu film didn't exactly leave us in a telling place for, well, either character. Season 3 was actually a more definitive end to, well, both of them. I think the way that they were set up and finished in that season was more telling, and it showed that the story was more done than this movie does. Now, this movie and this time period is now in a very difficult situation because we know, because of the sequels, that this Imperial remnant, this sort of fragment of the Empire that's left that involves Thrawn and co, will not succeed. But we also know that the only surviving Jedi is Luke Skywalker that we know of. Now, this puts, I think, Grogu in a very interesting position specifically, and I'm going to get onto that in a little bit. But I want to talk about Din first, who, in the movie, we obviously know he had a very close-to-death experience. I mean, he was never going to die, was he, realistically? It's his movie, but we've seen now that he is vulnerable, and he can be taken. I mean, he's been taken a couple of times in the show, but I think this was done in a way to show that maybe, just maybe, in a future piece, that Grogu might have to live without him. We saw Grogu develop in that sort of, half an hour sequence. It might have been 15 minutes. It felt incredibly long, because I think they paced it horribly, but that's in this video here. If you want to watch that, watch that. But I think Din Djarin's character is now in a spot where, what more can Disney do? What more? He's a bit like Thor, I think, now in the Avengers, and I think he's going to get croaked in Doomsday very convincingly, but this isn't what this channel is about. I think Din Djarin has been through everything his character can go through. Forgive me if I'm wrong, forgive me if you disagree with that opinion. Din Djarin has started off as the bounty hunter. He then saw the child and took it in and sort of became this father figure and has really developed as that. Then obviously Grogu got taken from him and he had to develop on his own again for a very short period of time. Thanks for that, Disney, because it would have been much cooler to see him on his own for longer. But it goes without saying it's a really important moment for his character, being without Grogu. And Grogu comes back, and I think Din's actually better with him than before. And I think their bond in The Mandalorian and Grogu is actually the strongest it is throughout the entirety of all 3 seasons of The Mandalorian. It's a much stronger dynamic in that show overall. But I think the time is coming, and I think the movie really showed it. If they do explore this time period more, I think Grogu will have to fend for himself, because I feel like Din Djarin has just been, I think he's finished. I don't see what new layer they can add to his character that isn't already there. That's my opinion. I think Din Djarin either will just let Grogu go off on his own, or I think he gets killed. I think that's quite far-fetched, because I think Din is in a much less difficult position than his sidekick, Grogu. Grogu is, unfortunately, in a really bad place for a character to be in right now. We obviously know, and like I mentioned at the start of the video, that Luke Skywalker is the only surviving Jedi at the time of The Last Jedi. Grogu would have aged a little bit by then, and I feel like would be competent enough to maybe not be a threat to the First Order, but be of a helping hand to the Resistance. So, where is Grogu? And I think that's a very interesting point to take into consideration, because we know that there's got to be some sort of finality to Thrawn's reign that will come to an end and come crumbling down. We know that that has to happen. The same stands for Ezra Bridger and Ahsoka Tano as well. I don't think those 3 characters, they being Grogu, Ezra, Ahsoka, one of those characters has got to go realistically. I think it will be Ahsoka most likely, but that's for in a minute. Grogu's position is interesting because I feel like it fits him to go into exile. A bit like Yoda, and a bit like Obi-Wan
Well, of course I know him. He's me.
It fits Grogu to probably back away, because I don't think he's necessarily strong enough, and go into exile. And if there is like another 3-part movie where Rey is training Jedi, maybe Grogu is a part of that, because I think Grogu's got a lot to learn still, and we're not necessarily too far away from The Force Awakens happening. The Mandalorian Grogu is set at approximately 25 years before, which means Grogu would be around 75 years old by the time the first movie takes place, which means by the end of the sequels Grogu would be 76. That's crazy, by the way. Rey learned how to be like a master of like the Force in 1 whole year. That's mad. Not about Rey. This video is not about Rey, but she learned how to be a Force user in 1 year. That is fucking absurd. Would be very cool to see Grogu, I think, become a Jedi maybe in a future trilogy and maybe like headline it. If not, unfortunately to everybody that loves Grogu, myself included, I think he comes to an end possibly if they can't explore that avenue, because it would be a real inconsistency for Grogu to be alive in this time period and not do anything, I think. Now on to Ahsoka Season 2. Ahsoka Season 2 is massive. I think Ahsoka Season 2 is huge. Now, it obviously got delayed recently, which is, you know, not good. But it is a massive project for that time period Star Wars. Thrawn needs to lose. Maybe not in the season. I think it's going to set up a movie. A big movie. But it needs to answer a lot of questions. Where is Ezra in the sequels? Where is Ahsoka in the sequels? Where is Sabine? Also, Kanan Jarrus' son. I forgot his name. Where is he? I have a feeling, like I mentioned a little bit earlier on, these characters realistically kind of have to go. Grogu, I understand, can kind of survive and maybe make a new Jedi Order because his age is just there. Like, he's not really competent enough, like I mentioned. He could show up and help in the sequels, but he's not really competent enough to be around. Whereas Ezra, Sabine, Ahsoka, they're kind of strong enough, they are strong enough, to the point where they should be in those movies helping the Resistance, but they aren't. So we need that answered. And I think Ezra may survive as well, but I don't know what they're gonna do with Ezra. Maybe Ezra, Ahsoka, Rey make some sort of Jedi Order after the sequels, but again, where were Ahsoka and Ezra for a year while the First Order was reigning tyranny over the galaxy? Why was it Rey who took on Kylo Ren and Snoke? Why wasn't it them? And I think that's a big problem that needs answering. We know this era has to fail, and I think it needs to be shown why. I think Ezra goes, personally. I think Ezra Bridges' character is also quite final. I thought, obviously, in Rebels, you don't see an on-screen death. In Star Wars, best thought is he's probably not dead. I think Ezra's character, he's very mature with the Force. He's grown a lot. One of him, Sabine, Ahsoka has to go. I think, realistically, for that time period, like I mentioned, they can't have 3 Force-wielding users running around doing nothing. Let me know what you guys want to see, and subscribe or my dog will eat you alive. But I think that Ahsoka Season 2 is the biggest project for Star Wars, and I don't necessarily think Din Djarin and Grogu's story is going to have a happy ending. Thank you guys for watching.